Mad Bros. Escape your world. Mad Bros.
This is The Scope reporting live. Billboards across New Eden have been hacked and are looping a message apparently delivered by a Triglavian entity named Zorya Triglav.
We are Zorya Triglav.
We speak for the
congregation of Triglav outside the struggle.
We are an emanation of the clades.
We are an emanation of the clades of Perun, Velis, and Svarog.
Hear the words of our prayer.
Hear the words of our prayer
Heed them.
and heed them.
The ancient domains beyond.
The ancient domains beyond the flow of Viraj were lost to us.
Intruders from the ancient domains have entered
entered
the flow.
Seek to corrupt the flow.
Intruders seek to corrupt the flow of Viraj and the domain of Bujan. The ancient enemy Azdaja must be extirpated.
Deviant automata must conform or be extirpated.
Corrupted Narodnya must be extirpated.
Must be extirpated.
Human augmented Narodnya must prove the direction of their flow. Narodnya
Moving with the flow of Viraj may be fit to enter.
Narodnya without fitness will be expelled from the flow.
Expelled from the flow.
The convocation of Triglav outside the struggle
Invoke
cladistic
cladistic drawing.
Glorification for the fit and mortification for the
Unfold on the flow. Triglav outside the struggle will be glorified and you.
glorified.
Nothing can halt the flow of Viraj.
Flow of Viraj.
We speak for the convocation of Triglav outside the struggle.
We are Zorya Triglav.
We are Zorya Triglav.
All right, it wouldn't be a push to talk show if we didn't have some sort of quirky, weird thing. The one time that I don't run through every single intro button when I push the intro music button, it just went black.
Yay!
Yay! So, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Push to Talk, and we're excited to be here. We've got some special guests today. We've got Brisk here with us, so thank you for joining, Brisk. And we've also got on sound Sothersil, the angry German.
Sounding particularly soft there, Eric, right now.
Am I sounding a little quiet?
A little bit. You were trailing off there at the end.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. How's the sound on the stream, guys? Should be okay because I really haven't changed anything. Maybe I'm just talking softer. Not my loud.
You're
voice or
more
something.
chilled out today for some reason.
I don't
You're
know.
relaxed.
I don't know. They say it sounds good on the stream. Tio's all. Oh man.
There you go then.
You know, you shouldn't agitate the angry German.
It's fun.
I don't know. I'm sitting here because in the pre-show, Scythe mentioned the Widow Jane. That, by the way, he bought me for my birthday. So I am cranking out the Widow Jane, and I say that just to make Brisk upset because he gave up alcohol.
So
I tell you, between last night and today, you guys are really hurting me. It was worse last week on Wednesday. They had the St. Patrick's Day reception at the White House for the Prime Minister of Ireland, and I was there, and they had all this free Guinness and harp and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I can't have anything. It's awful. It was bad.
You could have had a quarter pounder, right?
You know, I was mad because I went into the East Room and they had all the food laid out, and it had all this Irish food. I'm like, where's the McDonald's?
Yeah.
I wanted McDonald's.
I want some fries. Jeez.
So I was upset, but you know,
Terrible.
he's gonna have to start doing that for everybody because we want it.
I know. All right.
It's because it's because you're not an athlete, dude. That's why. Like,
Oh, my God.
that's only what athletes eat, apparently.
Real athletes eat junk food.
Horrendous reminds us that McDonald's is Irish.
There
Is
you
it?
go.
Interesting.
It's got Mick in the name, right? So
Yeah.
they should have had McDonald's.
Mick.
Sadis reminds us, as he does every week, that WoW was the first MMO. That's very important for us to keep present in everybody's mind. It's very important. The king is English. So they can't have that Balkan. I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah, that would be bad. You ought to remind. You're like wearing an orange tie. Everybody else is wearing green.
Yeah.
It's bad.
By the way, I want to say to Tio out there, since he's out there, because we cut off his host right with the start of the show. We did see you die gloriously on the bridge, Tio. It was beautiful. You did a good job. That was good. The King's Dutch. Alrighty, so we've got lots to talk about because CCP released a lot of things. We did play the Travolgian parts of it, at least. I didn't want to bore you with the Triglavian with the whole 4.5 minutes of it pre-show. But it looks like something big is brewing there. What do you guys think about that?
It's all lies and slander. I don't know.
I'm hoping we get some new ships. That's what I'm looking forward to. So.
Triglavian dreadnoughts.
I know, right? We need a
That'd be awesome.
Did they teased one new ship, right? At least one.
They did say there's a new ship coming.
Yeah, a new Triglavian cruiser, right, with dual entropic disintegrators.
Oh, I thought
wow.
it was gonna be
really.
a
That's great.
Tech 2
I heard
Rorqual.
something about that.
This might be more though, because at the end you can hear them calling for Concord taking action.
Mm-hmm.
So we might see like something bigger eventually. Concord maybe leaving ISAC, who knows?
Concord intervention sort of thing going on.
Was it Concord intervention or Concord to release all the data that they've collected on the Triglavians?
Well, pretty much both, right?
Could be interesting. I don't know. What are your thoughts out there in the chat there watching? I'm not sure what they're thinking.
Like I said, I hope we get the Dread. That would be awesome. We haven't had a
Triglavian
capital ship in a while.
Give me a Triglavian mining ship.
Told you, it's a Tech 2 Rorqual that's coming.
You want to trigger all the miners out there again, bringing a trig mining.
I'm just getting them riled up for the later parts of the show.
Getting ready.
Getting them riled.
Lilith says you need to talk more Soth. Capital mining lasers.
My guys ask me for mining lasers for Titans all the time. They drive me crazy. But
I mean, it would be a thing. Or how
No.
about just mining lasers for Rorquals? You know, instead of
doesn't
stupid
need-
fucking thing.
Well,
It doesn't
the thing
need to
is
be a thing.
the thing is with the Rorquals at the moment is like, you know, the Rorquals are just, you know, the better mining ship. You don't need to fit mining lasers on a Ragnarok anymore, and then get caught and killed
And made fun of.
and made fun of. Yeah.
That's half the fun.
Zeta says Rorquals need a buff.
There might be a way more interesting option that they go for. They did say that they made Eve safer lately, and many of us believe that's a bad thing. So who knows? Maybe they're making incursions great again by like giving us Triglavian incursions and making high sec, making null sec and low sec risky again.
Well, when they use that phrase, you know, we've made certain changes to make New Eden a safer place in the patch notes. That's code. That's code for we fixed an exploit. But they won't tell you what it is, so that you can't go try it again. So we'll see. But yeah, I hope it's new ships. I want new trig ships. I think that would be fun. They're some of my favorite stuff to fly right now. We fly a lot of Kikimoras now in Initiative, and I love my Vedmak. I think Vedmak's probably my second favorite ship in the game right now. I love that thing, and I'd love to take some Drex out. Although we haven't, I see a lot of Wormhole guys using Drekovacs, but we haven't had a chance to take any of those out. I have one, I just haven't flown it. I'd like to do that.
All right. So, who wants to take the first crack at the changes and talk about it? You know, your favorite change in the list of the March changes, or your least favorite.
Just grab Arendis. He apparently really wants to talk about it.
Well, he knows how to get in the channel.
He can literally just join the server.
He's been
arguing with
unlimited power.
the high sec with the null sec care
He's in the show. I've dragged him. He's now forcibly.
My absolutely favorite change about all this, is just how much people are bitching.
I mean, that's exactly right. You know, it was funny the amount of salt on the forums, and Arendis has been in the middle of that thread.
I don't think you're anywhere near engaged enough in that thread, Briz.
Oh, right,
I mean, it's just shame.
I'm horrible. I only posted like 100 times.
It's weird because the entire Goon FC team agrees that like 95% of these changes are like spot on.
Oh, Zoth, you need
Yeah,
that one
totally.
guy with that one guy, Brisk, the one who was responding to me like, you may be the leaders of this alliance, but you guys don't speak for me. Yeah, we do.
Well, and that's why I have to
That's how
laugh.
the
'Cause
leadership
sometimes
team
I'm
works.
it's like, guys, look, there are people in at least in Goons Forum leadership that do this stuff for a living. They're experts. I mean, Aerith is an expert at this stuff. He knows this economy better than almost anybody other than maybe Quant did. You know, and it's like when these guys are saying, "Okay, this is all right. This is going to be okay." It's going to be okay. You don't have to freak out about it.
Yeah,
But is it going to be okay though?
I was openly telling that guy, "Liz, just you have direct access to the best experts in this game. Join GSISC and ask them."
And I'll tell you, you know, when I have to explain what inflation is to this guy, you know, it's kind of like, okay, all right, I understand. You don't like the fact that they nerfed something that you were doing, and that's fair, and I completely agree with that. But at the same time, at least for us on the CSM, and for I think a lot of the Alliance leaders looking at this, the amount of ISK, the money supply in the game is going up, 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 and that only can have an upward pressure on prices, and that we don't want that to happen. I mean, Plex right now is almost at 4 million, and we're kind of getting, it's close to breaking the economy. So there had to be some way to reduce the amount of ISK entering the game, and mineral wealth at the same time.
And it's also close to driving people away who don't have the ability to basically, you know, have that safe space to rat in, you know, really, really high level ships as well.
We have told CCP that the sweet spot for Plex in general is it shouldn't take more than 15 to 20 hours of gameplay a month to be able to Plex your account if that's what you want. And we're kind of at the point where it's getting to the point where we're a little too high on that side, because people make so much money they can pay more for Plex, so they're driving the price up. And there haven't been any major sales, and there haven't been any major giveaways, so there's no downward pressure on increasing the Plex supply. So it's only going to keep going up, and that's only going to make it harder for folks to Plex their accounts who don't want to spend real money, or at least not directly spend real money on the game. So what are you doing? You're screwing all the small guys that can't multi-box 10 Vorks, or can't multi-box 10 VNIs at the same time, and you're making it harder for them to play the game. That's a bad thing.
And you're pricing the high sec players right out of.
Exactly. I mean, that's the worst part, is the guys that are not doing the most ISK efficient forms of ISK generation. The guys that aren't, that are running level 4 missions. I mean, burners are probably the best in the game in terms of actual ISK per hour, but those are very highly specialized, and people need to know how to do it. And you need multiple accounts to pull missions from. So if you don't have all that stuff, I mean, that's the equivalent of null sec super ratting for high sec guys and low sec guys. Yeah, but the fact is, you're never going to keep up. So something had to be done, and I think this is a good first step. Or it's about the 15th step now, but it's a good step to try to reduce the amount of ISK entering the game per month.
So now that we've got all this ISK in the game, which is crazy, right? If you go with the common thought that there's technically less people really playing the game, right? But we're generating exponentially more income, right? And the only thing that really injects ISK into the game is really ratting. Would you guys agree?
Mission.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ratting.
Mission, ratting, all that stuff, right? That injects more ISK into the game.
Anything that you actually get a payment from the game in ISK.
Right.
From something.
So how do we pull that money out? Should CCP be doing things to pull more ISK out of the game naturally?
Well, they are already going in that direction with some of the cap changes, as in the insurance changes.
Right.
So every time a cap dies, obviously
less money gets refunded.
Yeah. The other thing is that they are increasing,
and it's going to cost more. So.
Yeah, and they are increasing risk for these ships. If you look at the carrier changes, for example, the NSA change.
Yeah, so that'll slow down the amount that comes in, and it'll make it riskier. But that's not. But no change in assets and explosions will actually drag ISK out of the system. It just moves around.
They have done a few things that I think the insurance changes won't matter, because the amount you're paying for insurance is staying the same. The amount that you're getting back is what's being reduced. So that delta is an ISK faucet, an ISK sink right there, I should say. And then the skill book changes, being able to buy the skill books off of your character sheet with a premium markup of about 30%. That's going to be another ISK sink that's out there.
And a very quiet one that a lot of people aren't noticing.
Correct. But it's one that everybody's going to use because it's convenient. So I was hoping that they would have made the markup a little higher, if only because a lot of the guys that I know that do skill book training, 30% difference is not enough really to justify hauling stuff all across the universe and seating everywhere. I had suggested 50%, even 100%, and people would still pay it because it's convenient. But they wanted to go slow. And then they just redid on the sly, and I assume they did this because they didn't want people to go out and game the system, which again sucks for the skill book traders, but it was good for everybody else. They just increased a lot of the prices for a lot of skill books. Some of them went up as much as 100%, 80%. So that is going to create another ISK sink. But I mean, yeah,
Wait,
we need more.
They
sinks.
increased the prices. I thought those were actually going to come down as a base.
No, they all went up. And that's because there hadn't been a pass on the base prices for a lot of these skill books in 16 years. So I have a spreadsheet around here somewhere of the. I'll link it in chat for you guys.
That makes sense. Okay.
Another thing they could have done is just link the additional cost to the range. So the further away you are, the more you have to pay.
I see what you're saying.
I would have preferred a modifier based on what type of space you're in, because there's a lot of school stuff in LoSec, and but not in wormholes. And how many jumps are you away in a wormhole? If you make your modifier, but if you make your modifier based on how far you have to go, and wormholes show up as like 5 billion jumps away, it's kind of nuts.
You just put a cap on it. You just have it go from, let's say, 20% to 50% or 60% extra.
Can I remind you of 2 factors here? Okay. 1, now you're talking about actually thinking things through and doing math, and CCP.
So it was my understanding there would be no math.
It was my understanding that I would not need my abacus for this show. Thank you.
I'm just saying, CCP math. Don't put them there, Soft. It's not gonna work.
You're gonna make me remind us of why is it at 10 minutes I can jump again with my capital, and why doesn't that just go to 0? I don't understand.
That was the worst to deal with when I had to see through that.
Why is it still 10 minutes? Why can't we just make it 0?
I want you to know. When that first went in, we actually did some testing, and I don't remember. Soth, were you actually involved in this testing? You might have been. We actually did some testing just to see if you jumped with the blue timer of less than 10 minutes, had they screwed up the math so that fatigue would end up negative?
Yeah.
We seriously considered that to be a possibility. They didn't do that, but we actually had to test it just to make.
That is like the one thing in the game that confuses me immensely. But so how about the HUD changes? What do we think that's gonna do? That's gonna be fun, actually. I think.
I was happy, but also disappointed in the HUD changes. I think we had suggested just removing HAWs from Titans to begin with. I think one of the problems with Titans in dealing with subcaps is that the tracking is just too good. And you throw a couple Serpentis tracking computers on there and you can hit almost anything. And even with the long-range guns, I think long-range guns needed a nerf, and that wasn't done. I'm hoping that we can get that done in July. But I think, at least cutting the damage by 50%, I think that's going to have an impact on Titan ratting. But they didn't do anything to the bosun. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But I think at least it's a step in the right direction, and I think it does provide a benefit to HAW dreads that needed to be. There needed to be something that makes dreads like more of a standout, and I think the HAW side is probably better,
especially with them not being quite so disposable.
Well, that too, and I think of all the stuff that's in the group, I think the one thing that's underrated that people are going to realize pretty quickly was a bigger deal than it was the insurance changes, because dreads are disposable, and they're designed to be disposable. Faxes are disposable; they're designed to be disposable, and the faxes were insured so well that all of our SRP wallets didn't really take a hit. You could lose 100 faxes, and you were paying maybe 60 the cost of one Titan, And now, with the increase, the reduction in the insurance costs, it's going to make it a more tactical, strategic level decision. All right, do we want to feed all these faxes because they're going to cost a lot more? And in the short term, it's not going to be a big deal because everybody's going to have a ton of money and not going to worry about it. But down the road, you feed 2 or 3 big battles worth of faxes, that's going to put a dent in your SRP wallet, and people are going to get annoyed with it.
Dread bombs is the big one here, because it's going to change up the whole math on them. Before it was kind of no-brainer. You can tackle a super somewhere, well, just throw like 30 dreads on it, who cares?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a window for how large a fight will build up the fax losses, but once you get up above a certain size, it's just Titans DD volleying Titans, so the faxes aren't really going to be affected there.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
the way that it might is you might be able to get enough reps in to, for the Titan that dies on your team to basically soak up a few more DDs. In which case you start you start trading better. So there'll still be something that is that will be somewhat effective, but they won't just be neutralizing another group.
Well, even now they're not really. I mean, it's not a question of how many faxes you can throw at things. It's how consistently the fax reps land, because either you hit either the Titan DDs are spaced out enough that you can have reps land, or they're not. And if they blow through, and you're not saving that thing no matter how many reps you throw at it because they don't land in time.
Yeah.
You have to be the luckiest guy in the world to have all the ticks land at the same time as the DDs to save something.
Yeah,
and it doesn't happen. I mean, we didn't see
there's
it in
the other
X47.
well, there's the other aspect of large fights like this that is going to be fixed with the 64-bit client, and that's all of your support faxes, or at least a chunk of your support faxes basically disconnecting because of client crashes and that sort of thing. So
That is definitely something I would like to see. However, I will not put all of my eggs in the will be fixed basket until it's fixed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that-
I understand that.
Not all of the disconnects happen because of the 32-bit client.
Well, one thing we did notice, did any of you guys do the 64-bit test?
Yes,
I did. Yeah, I was there.
I mean, the one thing that I noticed that I was very happy about was in TiDi, at least in the big fleet fights that I've been in, X47 and 9TAC4 and MTAC-0, it was difficult to know whether something was actually working or whether you had to click it again. You always had to pull up the queue screen and everything, and you're looking at that trying to figure out if something went through. I didn't have that problem, even though we were in 10% TiDi for most of the time in that 64-bit client.
Just to check, did you guys push it in the 64-bit client test? Because I missed it, even though I was trying to get there. Did you push it past 10%?
We capped it out. I don't think it went any farther. I mean, I don't know if it can.
TiDi hits a certain point, and then it just gets overwhelmed at past 10%, and you start encountering server lag again because it's too. And I don't know if a client improvement will fix that.
Well, I didn't see any lag like we have seen in the past. It seemed like everything was working the way it was supposed to in 10% TiDi, which I thought was a good sign.
There clearly needs to be a little bit of explanation going on because, for example, Final Praetorian seems to think that TiDi doesn't cap out. It does. It doesn't, we use the term cap out. It doesn't literally mean capacitor. Yeah,
No,
it hits 10%. The numbers don't change.
That it gets to.
But if we're pushing more people in and doing more and more commands to the server still has to process them, which means that TiDi doesn't get TiDi doesn't go further than 10%. But what happens is you get old school lag, which is basically what happened in fleet fights before TiDi. So before TiDi, you'd get black screens, you'd get stuck modules, you get things not actually functioning when your client says that they are. That is all symptomatic of what happens when you hit 10% TiDi and the server wants to go past 10% TiDi, but can't because it's brick walled. It's capped out at 10% TiDi.
Yeah, when we're saying capped out, we just mean that TiDi will not expand for maximum expansion of time. That's all that.
So,
God only knows, Shaman.
The other kind of thing that I think is going to be tough to judge from an FC perspective, right, is the tank scaling that they're planning on doing on force auxiliaries, right, on faxes. I mean, you start out at 100%, but that's a pretty steep drop in the reps. What do you guys think?
I think that we'll need to see the map. like actually see the math, because I don't like that. I don't like that mixed chart, and Soft knows exactly why. Like it does not appear to work the way Rise says it works, and I don't know if that's a problem with the graph, if it's a problem with the way the math's being presented, or if it's just a problem with the labels on the graph.
I think the question. I mean, we all had a lot of questions about what the underlying assumptions were in that graph. I mean, when you're talking about faxes, how many are you talking about? A 3-repper? Are you talking about a 4-repper? What kind of skills? I mean, the fact is, I mean, the way that they set it up, just having the number of faxes is disingenuous, because the way that the tanking is supposed to work is based on the size of the incoming reps, not the number of faxes. So I guess you're assuming that everybody's going to have the same fit and the same skills, and they're all going to be repping the same amount, and that's how you can get those parabolas. But I mean, that's obviously not going to be the case.
An Apostle's armor reps deals X amount. A Lift's armor reps deal a different amount because it has different bonus.
Well, look at the cruiser. You have the Tech 1 lot, which use medium reps. And then
unless you put a large on the side.
Then you have large reps, and you also have the ancillary reps, which rep 50% more.
Exactly. I mean, but I think Aridis' point is absolutely valid. We're going to have to play with this when it gets on CC, hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so. I mean, they're going to have to start testing this.
Honestly, I'd like to see them give us the actual formula behind it, because otherwise, even Sissy, we're going to really be trying to figure things out for a couple of months.
We always ask him to do that. We always say, look, just give us the numbers now, because it's going to be on Hobo Loose. We'll figure it out in a couple of days anyway. Just make it easy on everybody. But they don't like to do that.
And speaking of the math, all right, going back to how do we get ISK sinks in the war deck prices. Decking a little guy should cost more money, because the big guys have the money.
Yes.
It right there.
But doesn't that allow me to make a little guy that owns structures as a holding company and then game the system?
So what?
I thought the change to a flat 100 million was a good middle ground.
It's a step in the right direction, but it just means I'm pretty sure you were reading the thread. You saw the way Tora reacted when I asked him if this was going to be a good or bad change for Marmite and Pirate. They
love it. They love it.
Right.
The bottom line is for them. They can deck all the big guys, and they were paying 500 million a week, and now they pay 100.
Right.
That's great for them.
So and now it doesn't matter. And the way wars are set up, they can identify their targets easier. They know who to pick on, and in the case of Pirate and Marmite, it is picking on little guys, and that's what they're doing. Their business model is extortion. So yeah, they got the money. They should be able to pay a little more to hit the one man. And if somebody wants to take advantage of that and set up a one-man holding corp for their structure, great. They still can't defend it with anybody because they can't shoot the guys coming at them.
Correct, and that's why I felt like when we worked on the war deck thing, the one thing I tried to impress upon CCP was, as much as we all generally dislike the war deck community because we view them as picking on the little guys, this is their gameplay style. They are good customers. They have been playing the game for a long time. This is what they like to do. We can't completely destroy what they're doing.
Right. And
so I viewed the 100 million thing as a sop to these guys because it helps increase their profit margins in certain cases.
I don't have any problems. I don't have any problems with them doing their thing. I think that the way it's set up right now, the mechanics of war are extremely advantageous to them. I think the fact that Tora is openly saying they're making more money now than they ever have means they can afford to be charged.
Sounds like a good change to me.
I mean, I think this is a step in the right direction, but let's face it, right now, if Test wants to become the premier high-sec war deck corp, high-sec is screwed. 100 million
definitely
each group they want to hit, and come at the keep stars, guys. I mean,
well, as long as they're making money hand over fist and perimeter, I think they'll be fine with that.
Because let's face it, the little guys can't even gang up on test because they can't rep one another.
That is one of the little things about the repping nerf thing that went through the third party Logi stuff. I think that's going to be interesting to see how everybody adapts to that. Because I think it's great that they're finally getting concorded instead of just getting a suspect timer. But
I think it's great
harder
they're trying
for
to
folks
address
to fight.
Yeah, I think it's great they're trying to address it, but I think that there are issues with how they're addressing it, and there needed to be a carve out for same war, same fleet. Because if to use the example that I used in the feedback thread, okay, you've got two Amar groups, all right? One of them is Pi, one of them is Lumen. Lumen is not in Pi because they don't want to be faction warfare people, okay? Pi is not in Lumen because Pi is literally the oldest alliance in the game. What the fuck do you mean you have to give that up? All right? So valid reasons for not being a single alliance on both sides. They get into a war in HiSec with somebody, and they're used to being in the same fleet, and now they. So you've got two groups that, between them, can field enough of a fleet for a 130-man fight in HiSec, which is rare as hell. Except now that can't happen anymore.
It just makes our desire to get a revamp of the coalition and alliance and corp management systems, so that maybe we can solve that problem by making coalitions a real thing rather than just something on paper.
That would be.
And fix the ESI while you're at it, so that the alliance doesn't have to own all the refineries. Moons.
I let Steve handle all the ESI stuff because I know nothing about the back end.
So let's go into the change that may I have stayed away from the forums. I don't go on the e-forums, right, to see how crazy everybody gets about changes.
You're lucky, man, Eric.
Because I'd be like posting continually.
Okay. To give you an idea of the Evo forums,
yeah.
All right. Did you catch the fight in the INN PL article where Graf basically came in and somebody said, "Are you authorized to speak for PL?" Imagine that, except 1,000 times worse.
It was pretty bad.
No, I skimmed the surface,
the funniest part of the entire thing was, this is the second time in 2 weeks where Reddit has been better about a change of the game than the Evo forums have. Usually it's the other way around. Evo is usually relatively tame and Reddit goes insane.
Mm-hmm.
But this time on the skillbook side, the Evo forums went crazy and Reddit said, "Oh, this is fine." And on these changes, Evo went absolutely batshit and Reddit said, "Oh, these are fine." It's the weirdest thing in the world when things don't work the way they're supposed to.
I would think, looking at these, the biggest thing that people are going to be pissed off and from talking in our corp are the current changes that actually went out there that affect the bosoning in Titan ratting with the spawn timer, right? And we have noticed that in our income numbers for ratting. I mean, immediately we saw that change. People moved away from it very quickly. And then the Rorqual changes because it's been nerfed so many times. And like I said in the pre-show, I come from the position that there are ways to slowly phase in changes over time rather than hitting people with things. And it seems to be in EVE more than other games that I've played that they tweak and balance so many things so much more often that I think you get a very negative feeling with your customer base. And any company that continually creates, and by the way, right or wrong, forget the right or wrong of it, right? Whether the game needs it, whether it's better for the game in the long run or anything. Anytime you do things to raise the ire of your customer base, you're doing something wrong, right? You need to find a better way to implement changes of this nature or other ways to implement them. right? And I think they're making these changes and things like that and ignoring things in the game that would probably be better, right? Give us a better reason to have war. You know, maybe introduce scarcity in a region, right? Or not in a region, but necessarily in a system. So if you're always ratting in the 0.9 system in your region, right? And it's continually being hit, that you make it more scarce in that. You change the timers in that system or something.
Well, the counterpoint to that would be, well, you know, all you'd have is, you know, the large groups, the PLs, the NC dots, the Goon Swarm, you know, Imperium, that kind of stuff, like basically just circling around the map, you know, and essentially stomping on anybody who just so happens to hold the space that they're going to be going to next, kind of thing. But honestly, that is so much effort for something, and I feel that's unrealistic. And the reason why I feel it's unrealistic is because when you're going around making money doing PvE, that kind of thing, you want to be in a particular system. You want to have the protection of, you know, a super cap fleet to come in and save your ass when, you know, when someone comes in and just fucks with your raw calls, that kind of thing. You can't, like, you could do that potentially on a rolling basis, maybe, if you keep on, like, but it's not going to be anywhere near as efficient as if you have a dedicated place like Delve to make money, and you partition that space up and, you know, essentially rotate around feeding grounds. So you have fallow areas that, you know, restock, you know, havens, restock kind of, you know, large, you know, all the colossal and the huge asteroid belts and stuff like that. So you know, you basically you end up just cycling around Delve in a much more efficient way.
In addition to what McLeod's saying, I think he's absolutely right. But the biggest thing, I think, with the resource depletion is, and he said it in the very beginning, is that has a bigger impact on the smaller groups than it does on the big guys. Yeah. And the fact is that the whole goal of reducing the amount of mineral wealth entering the game is reducing the amount of mineral wealth entering the game. So you go to resource depletion, that's not going to reduce the amount of wealth coming in. It's just going to mean that the big groups move around more. So the smaller groups, the rental groups, are going to get pushed around. They're going to get pushed out. You're going to still see locust fleets going out and just clearing everything, and then redoing it as soon as the stuff respawns. So it's just, I just don't think it's really going to have that kind of impact. Now, to be fair, to get back to Eric's original point, I mean, none of us asked for another Rorqual nerf. At least not on the CSM. And I don't think it was, the 15 to 20% was that necessary. I mean, granted, yes, there needs to be a way to reduce the amount of mineral wealth in the game, but my philosophy about that is make it easier to blow stuff up and make it harder, and make it easier to blow things up, and maybe change the amount of minerals required for certain types of builds, and there you go. You know, that's probably the easiest thing to fix it, and it's not gonna feel as much like a nerf, because it's not reducing the amount that you're mining. It just means everything you need to do to build stuff is gonna require more.
So when
that works it better. But
when you say make it easier to blow stuff up, I think you make it more reasonable to have a reason to blow stuff up. Because blowing stuff up real easy. You just show up in a fleet and start pressing F1. But we really have no reason to fight anyone.
Granted, but I mean, part of the problem with Rorks was that, you know, these things were very difficult to kill. Yeah. And the smaller groups that were going out, and I'm not one of these guys that's going to go and bemoan why can't my small gang kill a Rorqual? But the reality was that even with large groups, and if somebody had a plan and knew what they were doing, and their work was well tanked, they were able to hold out for 10-15 minutes, long enough for even the slowest form up of a response fleet to get there. And potentially, you know, people get tired and they run out of ammo and they can't keep going.
Yeah.
So if the other guys run out of ammo before you run out of cap boosters, you win. So I think some of the nerfs to the Rork tank, reducing the panic, is something that was universally suggested by everybody as a good thing. I think one of the other things was too easy for Rorks to save all of their most expensive stuff by dumping all the drones into We2. So your kill mail for a Rourke that knew was doing what he was supposed to do was like $2 billion. So all that effort, and you don't even get you don't even get the chance for the loot because the excavators are all stuck in the We2, and you can go back and get it at his leisure. So the changing of the size of the drones was a good thing there too. I think those changes will make it more likely that stuff blows up, and that I think is the ultimate solution to the mineral wealth issue.
I'll be honest, I do have a concern about the change in drone size. I think that does screw a very specific smaller group of people. But you know.
Well, I saw Olmeca's post about the folks that are drone bushing and that kind of
stealing.
Thing.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially, maybe that's something where we ask Rise and the guys to look at increasing the size of the drone bays on some of the command destroyers so that they can grab.
Well, no, it's not. It's not the drone bays. It's the cargo.
Or I mean the size of the cargo holes.
But really, they can already adapt to that because they don't really steal it with the command destroyer. The command destroyer is used to get them away. They steal it with bombers.
With bombers, right?
And all they have to do is switch to blockade runners there.
Yeah. So it puts more risk on them, but
yeah, exactly.
Who's going to snipe a blockade runner from 200K with a Rorqual? It's not easy.
But that's my only concern about it, is what I'm saying. So otherwise, sure, do it, whatever.
I mean, yeah, I don't think running a blockade runner into a system is that challenging at any
point. You can get a bomber and you can get a blockade runner in.
Exactly.
Hell, the bomber warps slower anyway, so the blockade runner is more mobile.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You probably get a better align time out of the blockade runner too.
You do actually. And I still think that excavators, even at 700 million, that they drop to immediately, are still overpriced for what their yield is at this point in time, though.
Yeah,
something needs to be done about that.
What I had suggested was potentially looking at the drop rates on the Elite Drone AI and the other stuff that is the bottleneck that makes the drone so expensive. And if they can do that and maybe tweak it a little bit so that you're getting more of these and they're not so expensive, maybe that'll drive the cost down a little bit. And that way they're more in line with what they.
They do have a way to do that, and I don't know if they thought of this. Because the way you get them is you only get them in the drone for obvious reasons. But the rogue drones are also in the Abyss. They could have these things drop from the battleships in abyssal sites.
Yeah.
Or just in the loot crate.
Or just the loot crate, theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. I'll pass that on.
I mean, if you ever wanted to make abyssals even more, enticing to people, that'll definitely be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does reading the piece on the Rorquals, does anybody get the idea that in CCP's mind, perhaps, rather than locust fleets of massive amounts of Rorks, right, or even somebody that has 10 or 12 Rorks in one system, that they want to try and push it a little more toward hey, this is more of the command ship of a mining fleet, and, you shouldn't have 15 of them. Maybe you should have 1 or 2 of them and a bunch of smaller mining ships.
That's what it used to be.
Right.
That's where we were, like 2.5 years ago, right? And you would only have like a select few people using them because you would only need one per fleet, right?
Yeah, you may use one for boost, but like more often than not, like you wouldn't use them for boost. You'd just use them to basically
compress.
To basically compress, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would just sit in a shielded pause and boost, right, when the boosts work different. But when I see the line about them increasing the burst strength provided, right, by 30% for a T-136.
They're clearly trying to incentivize the use of barges and exhumers. But that runs into a couple of problems. If you want to do that, first off, you should probably increase the effectiveness on orcas and porpoises too, so that people get into that mindset and not, I'm looking for the Rorqual. And great, but once you're in nullsec, you don't really gate so much to get around, so I want a jump drive.
Yep.
You just throw them in.
You still got to move. You still got to move the characters.
I know.
Wait. Could the Rorqual have a jump bridge type function only for industrial ships? Subcaptains.
Yeah, but they still have
that
to
could
link
be
it.
an interesting use.
Because that would increase its fleet roll to basically be like, I move my fleet here, I act as the boost, I act as the storage, I act as the compression, and that's it. And support 30 or 40 barges who I've just bridged into the system.
They could, remove. Alternately, what they could do is they could allow, they could remove the jump clone timer on Rorqual clone base.
That would work too. That would actually be pretty interesting.
You want to know what the worst thing about this patch is?
The problem is we would use that so bad.
We'd use it for an invasion card.
Oh my god! We'd have a fleet anywhere in the system in 5 seconds.
We'd be. Jay and I already planned that out years ago as a way to do invasions. You just use Rorquals for your clone bays, and
they're sitting there in a pos, and pods are just appearing.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Oh,
the worst thing about these changes. The worst thing about these changes is I've had to talk about fucking mining for like the last 8 months. Mining sucks. Fuck mining. It's like I know you guys. I know some of you guys love this stuff, but sitting in a belt with a rock is the most boring shit in the face of.
You're not doing it right.
I do not know why people like it.
Okay,
Brisk. Step 1, this stuff. Step 2, Netflix. And then you just
Or I can do that without mining. I can just get a drink and sit and watch the show without
You're not multitasking.
No, hold it. It's even easier than that.
Below the Asteroids is the best. Thalic's right. It is the best song, but mining still sucks.
Here's how you make it interesting. Okay. You do your mining while you're on this.
And not watch comms.
I could do that, right?
Hey,
I don't know. Hey. I look. I know miners are important. I know the industrialists are important. I know that they are.
It's just not your thing.
It's not your gameplay.
That's fine. It's just not my thing.
It's his kid's gameplay.
And the hard part is, I'm like the non-miner in a super industrial corporation within it. With like all kinds of server first build stuff that these guys have done for the last 15, 16 years. And I'm the only one that doesn't have a Rourke. I had 2. I sold them. I don't want to do it anymore. And I sold them a long time ago.
Like carrier that would be fun.
I have the same Rourke that I bought super, super, super cheap when we were in a wormhole.
Oh, yeah.
Because they said, Rourkes are worthless. I said, well, I just want one. And I still have, how many years ago was that Scythe? 5,
8 or 9?
8 or 9.
No, it's been longer than that, because that was 2010, so just around 9 years ago.
I'm like,
you guys were Rorqualing in wormholes about the same time.
Yeah, man, we used to compress everything, because we'd get gas and shit out of there.
Yeah. We built one in a C4 and got it out.
Did we build that in the C5 or did we jump that thing in?
We brought it into the C5. I think they brought it in. It wasn't mine, so I don't know.
Nah, you bought it from someone else for like nothing, and paid off in the long run.
It did.
Yeah.
So Brisk, how much more mining can we talk about in the next 8 minutes? I'm trying to figure out.
Hopefully 0, because my eyes are starting to glaze over.
We should go back. We should use the
there's still other stuff in the blog that we should talk
stuff.
about, because we haven't talked about the super nerf too.
Oh well, let's talk about that then. I was going to talk about the Korean stuff, but hey, let's do the
well,
super
I think I'm happy about the NSA change, and this was something that we had specifically brought up at the summit, because one of the hardest parts of catching bots is trying to get them when they're perma-aligned and they're ready to go. And I thought adding the NSA stuff just a little bit was just it gives us a little bit of a chance to catch some of these bots when they're out there.
Well,
and at the same time, if you're dumb and you're not pulsing your NSA, which I don't know why anybody would not be doing that, and you're not paying attention, it just gives a chance to catch some of these supers out when we're going hunting. I thought that was a good potential change to help make it a little less safe to be running that thing all the time.
On that whole topic,
perma-aligned.
I don't know, Seth. On exactly that issue. I mean, the bots will be, but like, I know at least one super carrier ratter in Delve who every time someone says, and then you just you get there, you align out to the nearest citadel, and their response is, why the hell would I do that? I want these idiots to drop me. I'm in the standing fleet. I got a Sino. Come on, I want to get some kills.
Right. I need kill marks from our ratting hell.
I know exactly who you're talking about. But the thing is...
And one of them gets on this show regularly.
Yeah. The thing is, they will just not use the NSA and go for SIBOs instead, and still be perma online.
Yeah, but the SIBOs don't lock nearly.
It's still you can only get it to about 50% of what the NSA does.
Yeah, of course.
Paxium's comment in the chat I want to address.
Yeah,
it's CCP's job to catch the bots. Don't hit people with Nerf bats over that. This is the problem when the game mechanics are designed to allow AFKing, and that's not hurting somebody when they tweak that to make it a little harder. It's not really a nerf, in my opinion. If anything, it just requires you to be more heads up and more present. The same with the VNI change that reduced the drone speed. You know, in the end, that's only going to hit people who aren't paying attention, who are AFKing more than anything, and it'll hurt the VNI and PvP to a certain extent. But the fact is, these are minor changes that are designed to help make it a little harder to bot, that don't have a huge impact on people who are physically present at their keyboard. I can't argue against that stuff.
Hey, because
the thing is, right, if you're gonna be taking that NSA off as someone who, like, say for example, if you're you know, that kind of person to bot, right, and you don't want to deal with that NSA thing because, you know, you're gonna have to go in and change your kind of bot program to take account of that, right? So, you know, the situation is, yeah, you take the NSA off, you put on a bunch of SIBOs, right? But that in turn means that you can't, you know, you're using up a whole bunch of mid slots, which means that your damage application for your fighters and for your fighter bombers and stuff is just going to go down, which means
it's going to kill your tank if you're a shield.
And I want to
see tank if you're a shield fit. So
if you have a tank, I mean, most of these guys don't.
Just to touch on,
can we get some nerfs in there that'll keep people from mining bots when they're using hundreds of procurers on a IS box and shit and ruining?
Just to address the kind of a side point in there, because like the whole it's CCP's job to catch botters is actually something that I have repeatedly said on the forums, as I'm sure Brisk has seen. You know, it's not our job to catch the botters; it's CCP's job. But at the same time, it's not that it's our job. In this case, it's not that it's our job to catch the botters. It's we're looking to catch anybody we can. So,
really, is anyone going to
this helps catch people regardless of whether they're botting or not. I mean, that's kind of why. Now, on the botting side, let me say this. We have been complaining, and every 2 months on Reddit, there's always a botting 2 minutes hate thread that everybody goes crazy in. I think CCP has really stepped up to try to stop the botting stuff, and they're doing a lot more about it than they had been in the past. And that's an indictment on what they did before because they weren't working on it as hard. But it's also a good sign because I think they're working on it more now than they have in the past. And I think the hard part is Horrendous is right, and I agree with Paxium. He's right as well. It's not our job to catch these botters. But there are going to be downstream impacts on all of the big alliances, especially all the big alliances that have rental alliances, because CCP is not just going after the botters now, they're also going after the dirty money. And if you're getting paid rent from guys with dirty money and it's going into your corp wallet, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and your corp wallet's zero, and oh wait, did the SOV check go through? Did all the other stuff that's auto set to pay go through? I mean, there's going to be lots of impacts down the road. So people got to be careful.
Let's remember what happened the last time somebody didn't pay for.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is CCP is going to intentionally do that, Soth?
No. What Soth is saying is Soth is accusing. Note, Soth, not me. I'm not saying this. Soth is accusing Manny of having fun. I didn't say that. I just translated Soth from Angry German.
I'm just opening the door to the discussion. That's all I do.
And I do hope that they do more of the pulling this up the highs. Those were fun.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that. I mean, it's always the other thing about it's CCP's job to get the botters. Let's just go with that. In so doing, to get the botters, quite often requires changes like we're seeing in the process of gameplay, right? To make it harder for the people to bot. That's all part of CCP going after the botters.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to find them programmatically by going after their activities and their actions. It's harder than you think.
Because
it is,
they
and I think
do things to make it to convolute that process.
I mean, the hard part it's also is that, you know, and Falcon said this, and I know Mossy and some others on the forums have given them a hard time. They don't have any automated tools for this, so they're doing a lot of the stuff by hand. But I think, and I think Buttercup makes a good point in the chat. Why does it take months of the community complaining about something for CCP to pull their finger out and do anything? They're a company. They've got other priorities. They're not always going to jump on the first thing the community says they need to do, because half the time they don't even know whether that's just a small group of loud people or if that's really a community sentiment. But I think, at least with the botting, it was sustained months of people saying you need to fix this and complaining about it that got them to pay attention. And the CSM brought it up too. And we can help amplify when the community is pissed about stuff to do that. But a lot of time it takes a long time to get them to do anything, and that's just the nature of the industry as far as I can tell. I mean, it took Innominate 3 years of bitching about Wardex before we could get them to even do the research that started them down the path to get the Wardex changed this year. I mean, that was all stuff he started 3 years ago. So the fact that it takes that long is just happens to be how, you know, a lot of times how this stuff works out.
Yeah, but that's not unusual in corporations either. I mean,
it isn't. It is.
It's also not all that unusual when, you know, the question is why does it take the community complaining for this long to get things to get done? Let's face it, the community complains about literally everything. If CCP were reacting to every complaint, they would never get anything done, because half of the complaints contradict the other.
And I mean, I'll tell you that's the one problem that I've had on the CSM, because I try to be. I'm the one guy that's like community oriented. I'm like the face. Aerith always jokes. He's like, we throw Brisk out to the pubbies and he gets yelled at, and then we don't have to worry about it. And that's true to a certain extent. But I do my best to try to filter the feedback and find out what people are really complaining about and what they're not complaining about. And it's so hard on some of these issues, because you got guys on both sides saying this is bad or this is good or this is dumb or this is not, and trying to figure out exactly where the actual community sentiment lies is impossible. And that's my job. And imagine if you're with the CCP guys and you're getting everything the CSM guys get times 10,000 because you're, you know, the one that can make the decisions, so everybody's going to them directly. It's hard. So trying to figure out what's bullshit and what's not. And then the other thing, and this has been true in past CSMs, it's not as much now, but there's always the concern with CCP that the CSM is gaming them or metagaming them to try to get some kind of benefit for their group. And we haven't done that, at least as far as I can tell. We joke about it, but we haven't really done that. I think at least this group has been more, you know, in tune to what's in the best interest of the game than I think past groups, and I don't mean like in the last 3 or 4 years, I mean like way back years, have been. But it's still something that the guys that have been there a long time think about. So there's always a question, all right, do I really trust these guys when they tell me something, or are they just trying to play me? No, and that's hard. It's hard for them to figure out.
I can't let that one go. I gotta call you out on this one.
Go ahead.
There is no way Steve is not in the pocket of big NPC.
Merkin,
he's been
they're good buddies now. They're good buddies.
Did we lose sound?
I mean, it's hard. And yes, I'm sorry. I'm a politician. You're not going to be spared the political rhetoric. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, I
gotta fly. Catch you guys later.
Thanks, Arendis. Have a good
day. I'm reading the firestorm that is the chat for this show right now.
Right.
And so one of the last statements is the patch is unfair for all except testing goons, and that's true just because of a numbers problem. And that's it. It's an organizational problem. It's not like the patch doesn't affect us the same way. It's just we have enough people where it doesn't matter as much.
It's not like we've been saying that like over and over again. Like every change they make to ratting and mining will hit the small guys harder than the big guys. Right. We've been saying that for years. It's not like,
but that's the problem. And we tell these guys all the time, you absolutely cannot balance the game based on what goons or test or the big groups do. because whatever you try to do to hit us is all gonna. That's not. Yeah, it may impact us, but we'll adapt because we have the organization to do it. It's all the little guys that get screwed with.
And the math is very simple. If I have 10 people making $1 million ISK every hour, and I have 100 people making $1 million ISK every hour, the 10 people will never catch up. There's no way for them to catch up unless the 100 people stop doing stuff for months on end.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to add one more thing, and then we'll go around and do one last thing. When you think about this, and by the way, this will invoke all kinds of hysteria if anybody thinks about it, right? So years ago, I was in some conversations with Scion, kind of leading them, and we were talking about it. We are getting to a point in EVE where you have the fanatics or the true believers that are still playing the game. Okay? It's been around a long time. Sure, you're getting new people, but those people who have played for a long time have kind of figured it out. If I go to Goons and the Goons give me the best opportunity to do my PvE mixed with my little bit of PvP that I'm required to do, those people are going to move to the area that gives them the least amount of risk to do what they want to do, right? So you're going to have a natural gravitational effect of those larger groups to go. I mean, it could be Test, it could be NCDOT, it could be any of the bigger groups, right? People are going to gravitate to the people who can protect them. And that's just how it's going to be. Groups will generally get bigger unless we have a giant AT&T breakup. No alliance is allowed to be bigger than 100 corporations or whatever it is. Right?
I disagree there.
Okay, go ahead.
I really disagree. Before we had the soft changes, we had big groups breaking up from within because they were fighting over money. Like, look at CO2 breaking away, for example. I know it wasn't the only reason, but one of the big reasons why they were stabbing us in the back was because they were unhappy about how many R64s they were getting, right?
Right. So forget the fact that they couldn't manage them or do their own bookkeeping, but go ahead, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you've seen that happen over and over again, that groups were fighting within their structures about money, and you don't have that anymore because you don't have money from top to bottom anymore.
Right.
Yeah, like traditionally it was a case of you push more and more people together, more and more people will butt heads about, petty things, which will end up with infighting, which will end up with, situations like CO2. But, if you don't have that thing to butt heads against each other, then it doesn't really happen.
Anyway, I got to run too.
Yep, and we're going to go around the room. Well, Sothrisel, is that your one last thing, or do you want one more thing? I'll let you go since you're leaving so quick.
Me, they hurt my heel. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye. Scythe, I'll go to you.
I got nothing. I'm going to just keep drinking and laughing at the people freaking out on the forums about patch changes that are not really that outlandish.
They're pretty heavy-handed, I think. But
they're heavy, but I don't think they're bad changes. I just think we're going to go, we're going to have to do some math again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, McLeod, you're up.
I've got two things, basically. One is that the 50% active tank reduction on the raw core sucks for small to mid-sized groups, like in terms of like saving their things, because essentially it means that you don't have as much time to be able to muster the majority of your people to go and save you, which is bad for small and medium-sized groups that want to actually utilize raw cores. And the other thing is, for fuck's sake, remove at least one or mitigate or reduce the fucking quadruple bonus that the Ferox has for Rails. Rails are fine. It's the quadruple fucking bonus that the Ferox has for Rails that makes the Ferox fucking fantastic.
We asked them specifically for that, and we got math changes. So.
How dare you
got
reduce
what?
the Ferox, the greatest ship in the game?
We also said to slow the Munins down too, and that'll piss everybody off. But
yeah.
These mutants are too damn fast. These kids driving around.
You can't reduce mutants because then Elo disappears and all of the people log off.
I'm fine with that.
They don't have
I have no problems with that at all.
I was saying that purely.
Is there some beef there that we need to talk about? Do you need to get that out?
I was approaching that completely without any kind of without my personal feelings on him in any way, shape, or form. Purely as a kind of guy who gravitates content towards him. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, Brisk, I give you.
My turn. All right. The only thing I'd say is next week is Eve Amsterdam. So if you're any of the Euros are watching, get your tickets and go out there. It looks like it's going to have a good time, and you're going to be the last guys to be able to say hi and goodbye to CCP Guard because it's the last fan fest he's going to be doing. So
last fan fest, we are still trying to get him on the show, but yeah.
I think we're all trying to get him on all the shows, and hopefully at the end of the month when he gets back from Amsterdam, he'll have time to do them all and say hi to him.
Yeah. He said when he's out of the day-to-day of CCP, he would love, so I'm sure he'll be making the tour.
We're trying to get him to run for CSM, so
that would be good.
Of
all the people at CCP, Guard is probably perhaps my favorite. It's just because he's just a cool guy. Just a nice guy. Always nice, in my opinion. So, my one last thing is make sure you follow us on Twitter, Push to Talk Show, out there on Twitter and Facebook. So please get in there. We're going to update those more often. And Scythe, I don't know if you were going to throw into chat the join the Discord link, but Scythe is going to put that out there. Join our Discord. We can have ongoing chats about whatever we want to chat about. As always, thank you, Brisk, for coming. And by the way, that's a phenomenal tie that you've got with that. That's really nice. Love the green.
Happy
tie.
St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, everybody.
That's right. Thanks. And I hear that's a holiday that you really enjoy, especially this Lent season.
It's hard this Lent season, but normally I do. So that's the hard part. At least I have my soda bread, but I can't have any booze.
Brisk, what you can do is shave your head for St. Baldrick's, and then you can get free drinks after.
See,
there you go. That works.
See, I gave up carbs for Lent and more.
I gave up carbs for the last 8 weeks.
I'm just going with the the cabbage and the corned beef, and I'm good. All right, everybody. Go out and have fun tonight. St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. I'm sure you're all celebrating it today. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Push to Talk. And we will be back next week. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.